Hello, welcome to Connie Martinson Talks Books. My guest today, Avraham Torrey, is a man who is a lawyer and a jurist from Israel, but he's also a survivor, and he kept a diary. And he went to Tampa, Florida, and because of this diary, former Nazis were not allowed to escape justice. The book is called Surviving the Holocaust, the Kovno Ghetto Diary. The book has an introduction by the eminent Martin Gilbert. It's published by Harvard University Press, and we will be back after a short pause with Avraham Torrey. We're talking with Avraham Torrey, author of Surviving the Holocaust, the Kovno Ghetto Diary, published by Harvard University Press. Welcome, Mr. Torrey. And the importance of this diary, apart from even the legacy it gives from generation to generation, is that it has been used in 3 trials of former Nazis.
That's right.
The former mayor of Kovno, Paul Palčauskas.
He was nominated as a mayor by the Nazi authorities in Lithuania. And he pursued their orders, and in full cooperation, he actually was the one that issued the edict of the expulsion of Jews from Kovno to the ghetto. He signed it together with the Lithuanian commandant of the military commandant of Kovno. And he, after the war, he went to the United States under the pretext that he was a refugee and escaped from Germany. And now, after approximately 35 years, he was traced, and I was invited to come by the United States Special Investigation for Criminal Special Investigation Commission in Washington, and I brought them, first of all, my evidence and the original material. One of them is the act that he
himself signed.
Signed. Yes, himself signed. And when he said, "What? I am a very great friend of Jews. All the Jews were my friends." So I took this document, the official, that was on every corner in the city of Kovno, the verdict of expulsion of Jews from Kovno, and I showed it to the judge. So the judge in Tampa, Florida, the federal court of Tampa, Florida, didn't look at him and decide. They looked only at me and just asked, "Mr. Torrey, how did you manage to rescue it?" And I said, "Well, this was part of my task, my mission, to save all this evidence, just not to leave it as a secret behind the barbed wires of the ghetto, as the Germans, the Nazi Germans, really aimed to do, that it should remain a secret." When they killed approximately 80,000 Jews on the Ninth Fortress, they also excavated, before the end of the war, they excavated these corpses in order that no sign should remain of their atrocities.
Yeah.
What I had in mind from the very beginning, that it is my mission, and it is a task of each everyone who will survive. We didn't know who will survive.
And this with you is the first entry
This was
of
the
the
first
diary.
entry of the diary
And
on the outbreak of the war, before the Hitler army came to Kovno. I sat all the night and waiting for a lorry to take us out in order to escape from the bombings and the fire. And incidentally, I took a paper that was on the table, and I wrote it after midnight until 3 in the morning,
Yes.
when they came a friend and they took us by a wagon with a horse, and of course it was not far away with we could run
Yeah.
with the horse. But this was the entry.
Mr. Torrey, this also was used in the trial of Helmut Roca,
Yes,
who was in Toronto, and he was responsible for killing 11,000 Jews.
right. Helmut Roca was the head of the Jewish desk at the Gestapo headquarters in Lithuania. He lived for 35 years in Toronto. Approximately half a mile from him lived a survivor from the ghetto Kovno. And he didn't know, but when he was traced, he said he was never in Lithuania. He was in 1941, 1943, he was in Czechoslovakia. So we have an International Association of Jewish Lawyers and Jurists, the center in Jerusalem, and branches all over the world. Also
And you
in
are their
Canada.
deputy general.
I was the honorary secretary general for 20 years, and now also the presidency of this international association. And one of our vice presidents was Professor Erwin Kotler from the Toronto University. And he called me from Toronto to Tel Aviv, and he says, Abraham, you always told me that you are looking for Rauka, and here we have him. And he says it was not in Lithuania at all at that 1941, 1943 period. So he said, Erwin, call me back in half an hour, and in the meantime, I'll take my diary, and I'll be able to tell you dates on which this mass murderer was in the ghetto, and what did he do at this every time when he visited the ghetto.
Yeah.
And he called me back in half an hour, and I had it already ready under me, and they gave him 18 days. The 28th of October is one of the crucial dates, but only one date. And this, he was on the 28th of October. First of all, he ordered that all the Jews in the ghetto, approximately 30,000 then, that they should report with children and babies, old and women and men, sick, that nobody should stay home, and should report on the big square, what was called Democratic Square. And whoever will be found at 6 o'clock in the morning where to report. And whoever will be found in his dwelling in the ghetto will be shot on the spot. I wrote in the diary how it was that morning. It was just a funeral for selves that we went.
Yeah. He
And
was
he
like
stood-
Eichmann, right, left,
Right,
right,
yes.
left.
He stood on a small hill, so he could have an overlook of all those 30,000 people, and he just with his finger lip, right, left, and since we always thought that right is the right thing and left is the left thing, at this time he just made it the opposite. Those who were on the right side went to death, and those to the left side remained alive. And there were many cases when he said right, so they thanked him. Thank you very much for your grace, you see. And it took all day long. It was a winter day, November, of course, October 28th, from the morning until late in the evening. And they passed. He ate a sandwich, and he kept in one hand a sandwich, wrapped in paper that he shouldn't his hands should not be
Dirty.
dirty. And with the other hand, he just showed rechts, links, rechts, links.
Who will live and who will die.
Yes.
We're going to take a short pause. We'll be
Yes.
back. We're talking with Avraham Torrey, author of Surviving the Holocaust, the Kovno Ghetto Diary, published by Harvard University Press. Mr. Torrey, there is also the moment where you are, I guess, appointed to be Dr. Elkahan Elke's
Elkes'
Yes.
secretary.
Yes.
Yes. Well, it happened, it was not such a nomination. When the Jewish committee was elected by, contrary to all the committees, Jewish committees in other ghettos, the Jewish committee in the Kovno ghetto was elected in an historic and dramatic assembly of those in Kovno who remained on the 4th of August 1941. And when this was, nobody wanted to be in the committee because we knew already that they should serve the Nazis. But all insisted that Dr. Elkes should be the chairman because he was a well-known physician and he was the private physician of the German ambassador to Lithuania. And we thought that he would have some influence on him. And he didn't want to take the job because he said he had no, electly the Germans said, you go to the ghetto, there you'll have your own municipality and nobody will touch you. So Dr. Elke said, I had no administration, no experience in administration of the municipality. But all insisted, and then Dr. Schmuckler says, they said, the German terminology, Dr. Elke was supposed to be the Oberjude, the top Jew.
Yeah, the chief Jew.
The chief Jew. So the Rabbi Schmuckler stood up, and when Dr. Elke didn't want to take it, he said, for whom you'll be a chief Jew, for us you'll be the respected head of the community of the ghetto.
Yeah.
Yes. And we, 3 lawyers, young lawyers, volunteered to be a Dr. Elkes' help, and I was one of them, yes.
I'm going to hold up a page of portraits because along with keeping the diary, you had artists and one photographer as well as yourself.
Myself, yes.
To document, almost to bear witness to history, this did exist, there was a Holocaust. One of the pictures on the page is Dr. Moses Braun,
Yes.
who was in charge of the contagious hospital and kept typhus from becoming rampant.
Absolutely right. Well, when I wrote the diary, I was almost sure that nobody will believe what I'm writing. So I tried to, first of all, to get some visual evidence. First of all, photos. When I had the photo, the camera, I made photos, but then they took away. So I was helped by the artists, Esther Lurie and Joseph Schlesinger. Joseph Schlesinger was the one from Czechoslovakia who made mainly the portraits. Dr. Moses Braun had a most important job because he stood in the forefront against the Nazis' aims to look for an excuse to wipe out and to annihilate all the Jews from the ghetto under the pretext that they had contagious diseases, and this would be, for the city of Kovno, it was a danger. Dr. Braun himself, only himself, under danger of life day in, day out, kept these contagious diseases a top secret. And he dealt with, and when they came from the Lithuanian municipality official delegation of physicians to show them where are the typhus, the sick ones of typhus or contagious diseases, he said there was no one. And they said, how can it be? It is such a tense that was only 2.95 meters dwelling space per person. And in a place where formerly lived 8,000 people, there were squeezed in 30,000. And they looked every second, third month for a contagious disease sign. Dr. Browns constantly stood on alert, and he was the one that appeared and told them there was not not a single case of contagious diseases.
Mr. Torrey, let's talk about a place that when the fires were there, it was like seeing hell burning, the Ninth Fort.
Yes. Well, the Ninth Fortress was built approximately 200 years by the Russian Tsars to be against the German threat to attack Russia. And this was a chain of fortresses around Kovno, which was very close to the German frontier. In time of the 150 years, these forts were used for criminals, for those who were sentenced to death and waiting for their passage. At the time of the occupation, of German occupation, they used the Ninth Fortress and the Seventh Fortress and the Fourth Fortress. The Ninth was the main fort, but not the only one, to a place of mass murder of Jews. They were brought either from the Kovno city or from the ghetto. And for instance, when Roka made the selection, the terrible selection of 10,000 Jews in one day, they were brought out from the square where we were to and the next day brought to the Ninth Fortress up on the hill. And this is the place where they forced Jews to dig big
trenches.
And it was approximately 500, 800, 1,500, 2,000 victims, corpses in one
burial.
We called it the brothers' grave. And when it was after the Leningrad, the retreat of the Soviets, they started to dig out, and they engaged 54 who were on the fortress, mainly partisans from the ghetto who were on their way to the woods, and among them also several prisoners of war. It happened so that one day they brought to the fortress a
Russian
high captain from the Russian Soviet Red Army, Captain Vasilenko, Captain Vasilenko was his Russian name, but he was a Jew, and his real name was Israel Vasilovich. And when he came in to this place, he was for 2 years.
How to escape.
They thought he was a Christian, But once they took them to the bath, and then they discovered that he was a Jew, and they took him straight to the Ninth Fortress. When he came to the Ninth Fortress, he was himself a specialist on fortifications. So when he came in, he says, "What are you doing here? We'll never go in. We have to find a way to escape from here." So they told him, the others, it's for 150 years, none escaped from the Ninth Fortress.
But he worked the escape.
And he looked thoroughly around, and he prepared one plan that didn't work, the other one. And how do I know it? When they finally escaped for the first time in the history of the Ninth Fortress, that all the 64 escaped, and then and the part of this 64
Yeah.
came to the ghetto. So Vasilenko said, what are you talking about? We escaped now from behind
Yeah.
the gates, and now you want me behind the barbed wires? But our former ghetto inmates who were there, they assured them that we have in the ghetto a underground, and they'll bring them out from the ghetto straight in the way to the. And we sat all night with Captain Vasilenko, and I just marked down his report, and this was one of the outstanding chapters in the diary.
Thank you. We're going to take a short pause, and we'll be back. We're talking with Avraham Torrey, author of Surviving the Holocaust, the Kovno Ghetto Diary, published by Harvard University Press. And I must compliment, Mr. Torrey, your translator. She's done a wonderful job. Reading this book, one lives through what you and the people lived. Question, where were the crates that you hid the diary in?
Well, one of the main problems was, no, not one, second to the main problem. The first one is to
Survive.
write it.
Well,
write
survive, I think, is
and
the
keep
first.
it and keep it. And then I had to find a place to hide it, because it would be the end of my life and my family if they would find even one page. So in the ghetto, mostly there were wooden huts, but there were three houses that were of brick. You know, this was supposed to be, they built it very close to the war for workers.
Mm-hmm.
It was three floor houses, three entrances.
Yeah.
Two were finished and one was still unfinished. We called it the Block C, because Block A, Block B,
Mm-hmm.
and Block C. The Block A and B were always tenants with people, and the third one was unfinished. But there was a workshop for repairs of the houses, and this I thought would be a good place, because it was built on foundations of pre-stressed concrete. So below the pre-stressed concrete, I was sure that all the other houses in the ghetto will go in flames when it will be liquidated. So I thought that this is the only place that we can hope that will remain under the. So we digged 2 meters. It means a meter is it's approximately 5 feet
Mr. Torrey,
below the earth. And then I asked one of my friends, who was the head of the workshop for repairs, and he prepared the crates from wood. Inside the crates, we made it around with paper that could not, water should not reach. And around the wooden crate, we put metal. And then we close it with tin hermetically.
When you and Penina, who is now your wife and whom I had the honor to meet earlier, go back, the Russians do not want you to bring out these diaries. The war is over, but nobody wants you to let these diaries be published. And the means of which you bring it to Israel is phenomenal, because you leave it with some people, others, and you have to trust it will show up. But among those papers is Dr. Elke's last
Will and testament.
to his children. And there are 2 paragraphs
Yes.
where he says, "Remember and never forget it all your days, and pass this memory as a sacred testament to future generations. The Germans killed, slaughtered, and murdered us in complete equanimity. I was there with them. I saw them when they sent thousands of people, men, women, children, infants, to their death, while enjoying their breakfast and while mocking our martyrs." It goes on, and it also talks about the Lithuanians you thought were your friends. What's your philosophy today?
Well, first of all, you have this, it was Dr. Elkes. We were very close on, because I read every entry next day to Dr. Elkes and to make sure that it was right. So when
But
I
for
was...
you, today, how do you feel about the world? You now live in Israel. Do you feel the world is still your enemy?
We feel like that because we experienced, Jews lived in Lithuania for 700 years. Jews built the Lithuanian economy, the industry. A Jewish leader, the President Nachum Sokolov, the president of the Zionist World Organization, introduced the first Lithuanian prime minister to the Pope.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually undertook, under the treaty after the First World War, that they'll give it autonomy, cultural, religious, and other autonomy to Lithuania. They had a Ministry for Jewish Affairs. All these were annulled in 1926. This was the first step, and then they were very, very close cooperators in killing Jews. They volunteered to kill Jews also outside Lithuania, in Lublin, in 1943.
And briefly, because we only have 1 minute left, your philosophy for today.
My philosophy for today is that the Lithuanians will never in their history wash clean before, because they were full partners in the murder and annihilation of Lithuanian Jews. The outside world didn't come to our help, not one day. And this is what we waited in the ghetto, but in vain.
Mr. Torrey, if we may never, never again. Will you autograph my book for me? If you would like a copy of our publication, Good Books, write to me, Connie Martinson, P.O. Box 69, 1640, Los Angeles, California, 90069. Look for our column in Beverly Hills today, all of the California Press Bureau's 8 newspapers. We'll tell you about some other books we've liked recently, including Father Elwood Kaiser's book, Hollywood Priest. Wonderful book. Meanwhile, support your local library, support RIF. Reading is fundamental, and we'll see you next week. But do not miss reading Surviving the Holocaust. It is a memorable book. Thank you, Mr. Torrey.
Thank you.